If you get 4 tries to someone else's 2 tries, you're spending half of the number of days on the route to get the same amount of learning done.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Struggle Climbing Show. It's me, Ryan Devlin. I am your host, and I am pumped that you are here. I am pumped both in spirit and in my forearms, because this conversation with Tyler Thompson goes deep into endurance climbing and training and projecting, which is something I've been focusing on recently. So I am quite pumped physically just from the training that I've been doing. But also this conversation, whether you are a route climber, indoors, outdoors, or even mainly focus on bouldering, this conversation I think is going to be really insightful for you, because Tyler breaks down how he gets more out of every single session. And he's done that over years of building an incredible amount of capacity, but there's ways that we can do that as well, so that we can get more out of every session. And if you're a busy climber like I am, well, that's a good thing. Let's get more out of every session. So Tyler breaks that down, but also just explores this whole world around projecting big projects, what happens when we get injured and we still want to try to do the thing, and how we can alleviate the send anxiety, kind of the fear of failure, if you will, some things that he's doing around that. It's just a really good conversation all around. And we start by actually going into a little bit of Tyler's background, but I'll give you some highlights right now, because he's a humble guy and he's not going to brag about him. So I will brag about him. And in fact, when we connected, he was recently back from a trip in Spain where he just went on a tear. He sent 2 9As and a 9A plus. So 2 514Ds and a 515A, La Rambla, in pretty short order. In fact, we unpack a couple of those routes, because La Rambla being like a mega classic 515, and then Era Vella, 14D, as you all know, I talked with Tim Emmett about that not too long ago. But Tyler sent that one while injured, like last day, last go, pretty epic story around that. And what he learned and what we learned by extension from that, I think is pretty cool and pretty applicable, whatever grade it is that you're climbing. And again, whether that's indoors or outdoors or boulders or routes, I just think a really fascinating and fun conversation here with young phenom Tyler Thompson. He's in his mid-20s. He's an Arc'teryx athlete. I spent some time with him while he was out here at the Red, projecting just before he sent Southern Smoke Direct, one of the hardest routes at the Red River Gorge. And we talk a bit about that in this one here. And just a bright future for this guy. I think you're really going to enjoy it. And on the backside, I'll tell you a bit more about a banger bonus episode that I recorded with Tyler, as well as what I'm doing right now to try to train up my endurance. My very, very low endurance coming off of this bouldering block of mine. So yeah, a little bit more on the backside, but right now let's just go ahead and jump right in. Let's get pumped with Tyler Thompson. Where are you right now? Are you in Vegas?
Yeah, I'm in Vegas.
What's the scene in Vegas right now?
I've been mostly climbing in the Fin Cave, but yeah, I mean, it's just like season is changing here for sure. So basically, like yesterday, the temps jumped way up. And so now it's kind of like we were climbing. I'm going to the Utah Hills tomorrow, but I kind of think that it might be out of season. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, the temperatures have been all over the place. Like when I talked to Bill Ramsey, this was like a month or more ago. It was like that crazy heat wave was happening out there. And he's like, this is bullshit. It's too hot.
Yeah, I don't think it's actually even going to be as hot as it was then, like in the next 10-day forecast. But yeah, it jumped back down to be like 70s in town for the last, month or so. I mean, I wasn't here when it was super hot. I was still in Spain, but it sounded bad. It sounded like everyone was climbing up at the roost and stuff. And then like it got super cold again. And then everyone was climbing like at the low elevation crags. And yeah, I don't know. It's kind of annoying to like, you go up there and then you're like all psyched and then it's out for another month and then you're like, shoot, I can't try the thing I wanted to try.
So Vegas is home base for you, huh?
Yeah, I just moved here in September. So nice. So I was living in Salt Lake sort of for like a year, but I kind of spent maybe 3 months there. I was just traveling a lot and I just found out like I always had it in my mind to move out west, and then I had some friends who wanted to move to Salt Lake, and so I was like, yeah, sure. Salt Lake seems like there's a lot of climbers. And then I went and then realized that the climbing, like you kind of have to drive to a lot of climbing. Like it's like the city for like a weekend warrior, but not the city for like someone who can go out climbing every day.
Right.
And so I just ended up, yeah, spending a ton of time in St. George, which is amazing for climbing. Like the Utah Hills has so much stuff. And I just came time to renew my lease, and I decided like probably not going to stay in Salt Lake. But before that, I was in Virginia finishing up school.
Let's actually do a little bit of that, because there aren't like, a lot of times I talk to climbers on the show and there's like a million podcasts out there of them or a bunch of YouTube videos, and there's plenty out there, and there's some great articles as well that have been written, certainly as you've been reaching the upper echelons of sport climbing and doing some really cool projects recently. But there still isn't like a ton of Tyler Thompson information out there. So let's like run through some of the just general bio stuff before we really dive into the typical struggle format here. And where did you grow up? Was it Virginia?
Yeah, I grew up like an hour southwest of Washington.
How old are you right now?
I'm 24.
When did you start climbing?
Kind of like, I mean, my first time I ever climbed, I was probably 7. I used to go to the summer camp in North Carolina, and they would just take us out like top roping, like granite slabs, basically. Looking Glass, I climbed out when I was super young, but that was kind of just like, you know, once a year for a month, I would climb, you know, a few times a week, and I was really into it, but I was into like other outdoor stuff too. And then the rest of the year I wouldn't climb because there was just no like facility even close to where I grew up. And then maybe when I was like 12 or 13, they opened a gym like 30 minutes from my hometown, and I just immediately joined the youth team there, and then was like super into it from probably like day one.
Did your parents climb?
No.
So you just got psyched to like with some friends just at the local gym, and that's where it took off?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it kind of started like going to summer camp, and they had some like very good climbers, like, you know, 13 plus sport climbers, like really proficient trad climbers, just teaching this camp and guiding us. And
cool.
So like even I'd come back, that's where I learned to lead climb, and they would set like up to like 5'11" plus. They had like a wooden tower there, and I remember when I was like 12, I learned to lead climb on this wooden tower, and there was like an overhanging section where they set like an 11 plus, and I just like projected this 11 plus, like, you know, 8 goes a day, like every day for like the whole month I was there. And then like week 3 I do this route, and I was like so psyched, and they gave me like a little trophy and stuff, and yeah, it was pretty cool. That definitely had a big impact on like just going to that summer camp. Kind of got me into climbing, I would say.
And how long have you been now like climbing as your full-time focus? When did you just fully commit to the climbing life?
Yeah, so I was in school until 2 years ago. So I graduated in 2024, and I was climbing a lot. I studied physics at James Madison University. So that's in like Western Virginia, really close to West Virginia. So it was like, it's like 3 hours to go to the NU. And basically, like in high school, I had started climbing at the NU, and then was super invested by like my senior year and just like going there every day I possibly could. And then I was a few hours closer in school, so I was going there like day tripping midweek. I was like going for the weekends, and I had like, I don't know, I wasn't like a pro climber. I wasn't making money off of climbing, but I kind of had said to myself, like, I'm either going to go to grad school or I'm going to keep climbing if I could make that work. And then like senior year came around, and I had like a Black Diamond sponsorship, and it was kind of like not, you know, I wasn't getting paid to climb, but it was kind of like right on the, like in the gray area where I was like, maybe I couldn't. So I was just like, all right, I'm just going to take a year and just like climb. I'd been a route setter for all throughout when I was in college. So I basically had saved up some money to be able to travel and climb before, you know, having to figure out my life. And I did that for like a year, and basically just had a few more opportunities. Jonathan basically came to me with an opportunity at Arc'teryx, which was like pretty transformative. Actually, I was applying to grad school, and that was kind of like towards the end of my, you know, gap year. And he came to me with like, he's like, hey, I think we have some, you know, maybe room for you on the Arc'teryx team. And it wasn't really like a one day I was just like getting paid to climb. It was kind of just like, a gradual transition to like, oh, I can kind of make it work for a little longer. Okay, a little longer. And even now, I'm not like, like I'm a route setter at the gym. I hung Christmas lights this winter, but it's like I'm in a great position to climb a lot, which is really cool. And
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I have a hard time saying I'm a professional climber. What is a professional climber? It's like one of my sources of income, but it's
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, congratulations, because you are doing it. You're supporting the lifestyle that fills you with joy and passion and purpose, and like it is affording you these adventures and these journeys and the growth that you're having. And Arc'teryx, by the way, congratulations, because like Arc'teryx is an awesome team to be a part of. So that's like no small thing. I'm sure for the listening public, they don't maybe know like as much inside baseball of this as I do, because I'm hanging out with you guys and talking with athletes all the time. But in terms of teams to be a part of, Arc'teryx is like really tip of the spear.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I'm so psyched about it. Yeah, just super grateful. I feel like I'm in a really lucky position. And yeah, I mean, I just want to take advantage. I mean, at the end of the day, I just, want to go climb and spend as much time out climbing as I possibly can. So I'm just trying to like make it work. And it seems to be working like so much better than I could have imagined. So
Sick, dude. Well, I want to explore a lot of different aspects of your climbing, and I'm excited to dive into these chapters of the struggle with you. We've got training, nutrition, tactics, mental game, and then we'll explore some kind of specific things around projects that you either have done or are working on right now. But let's start at the top, and that's with struggle, Tyler. So what does struggle mean to you as a rock climber?
yeah, I was thinking about this before we had this conversation, and it's kind of like why we climb is because like part of it is because it's hard, because like you don't like we don't like go out. I mean, probably at least people listening to this podcast don't like go out and they're not like and they're like psyched to just like climb whatever routes just to be out climbing. I mean, maybe some people do, but I feel like most people, you want to do the hardest thing for you. And I think that's like with everything in life. It's not just like climbing that you want to do something difficult. It's like everything like is more satisfying to do something that's hard.
I think that's valid, just what you said right there. But I think for some, and like very specifically for like hard, long endurance route climbers, there's just like a certain level of kind of struggle and punishment that seems to go beyond, other styles of climbing. And that seems to be what you've gravitated towards. Correct me if I'm wrong, because, you obviously are a strong climber across lots of disciplines, but there's just like an extra level of pain for the style of climbing that you do. And like, what is it that draws you to that? Like, what is it about that struggle and that discomfort that keeps you coming back?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something super satisfying and like kind of complicated about like piecing together such like a huge route with many different parts and, different paces, and you're on the wall for a while. But I mean, I would argue that like wall climbing is more suffering, but like maybe it's like less acute suffering. Like sport climbing could be like a 2 to 10 minute like really uncomfortable thing, but it's also like feels really good to be climbing, versus like a boulder is like maybe even more uncomfortable but for like a much shorter period of time. I don't know. I mean, I think all climbing could be like quite uncomfortable and like you're definitely suffering a little bit, but I mean, I think the act of climbing is just like satisfying. I think we could all probably like relate to that. And it feels good when the moves feel like easy and you're just kind of like doing it. But then it also feels good when it's hard and you're like still sticking with it and doing it.
Is that experience the same for you? You mentioned at the top here, like working on that 511 on the wooden tower at the camp. And man, I just I saw you light up as if you were talking about La Rambla, to be honest. Like you just kind of reached back and because for you at that time, that was La Rambla. And so like, has that experience has it been a similar experience as you've ascended through the grades?
I mean, maybe not as I've ascended through the grades, because I don't know if I really like think about like my progression in terms of like climbing different grades, but it's more like different routes. Like I have different projects that I kind of think of as like milestones. Like I think ultimately nothing feels good when you do it if it's not unpleasant before you do it, Like, if that makes sense. Like, you kind of need the struggle to have this like pleasant thing at the end where you're just like, psyched that you did something. It feels really good. It's very satisfying. And I think that's like with going to school, it's like I wanted to pick a hard degree just because I knew I would be satisfied at the end and I enjoyed the process, but it was also like really challenging. But climbing is like, has all the things, you're outside. It's really, really nice. You're with your friends and you're just like trying to conquer this like insurmountable challenge. Like, you're trying a route, you're just like, wow, this kind of feels completely impossible right now. And you can't really imagine the person you need to be to like actually do it. And then, however many days go by and you actually do it and it's all crazy. And then you're at the end and you're kind of feel like in a little bit of disbelief. And then it's like, this hit of just like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever.
Yes. Let's fucking go. I'm so psyched. Oh, good, dude. We're going to unpack all this and more in this conversation here. I'll try to stick to the format a little bit if we can, but if it wanders, that's fine too. It's my podcast. I make the rules. But let's start with training. And I've heard a little bit about your training, having spent some time with a bit of the Vegas crew out there, but you and I haven't trained together yet. So I'd like to dive in and get some details from you. First and foremost, struggle, Tyler. Where do you struggle when it comes to training for climbing?
I have a hard time maybe just being like consistent about going to the gym. I just like climbing outside a lot. So I would say right now 80 to 90% of my climbing is just outside. But I mean, I still think you could train climbing outside. I mean, that's what people have done forever. And I think it's especially good for sport climbing because you just don't find gyms that are set up. I mean, especially in Vegas, there's pretty much no sport climbing training available. So it's just easier to, train outside.
So most of your endurance training, if you will, I'll put training in quotes there, is outdoors on routes, on ropes. And I want to dive into that. Actually, I want to explore kind of what endurance training indoors could look like as well, since I'm in an endurance training block myself right now. But let's continue to look at yours. And you talked about kind of consistently getting to the gym is a bit of a struggle. I can understand that when you've got just a wonderland of rock choices around you. But it sounds like you have the gym to do things that are maybe kind of deficiencies or things that you aren't ticking when you're outside. And so what is it that you like to do at the gym that you aren't quite as consistent with as you'd like to be?
Probably just like board climbing. I mean, I have a hard time saying that like I would like to be more consistent, but it's definitely something I struggle with is like the right balance of bouldering and board climbing and sort of finger strength training, because that's probably like an area that I could, use some, like I could develop a bit more. But I just struggle with like finger injuries and just like overuse pulley injuries if I'm just climbing on a board, just because I think that the climbing outside adds so much volume. Like you just end up spending, a lot of time on the wall, a lot of moves. You're just doing a lot of moves, sport climbing. And then I just think that adding that other volume in can be really hard on your fingers. So yeah. I just struggle with that, like finding the right balance. And, I've had a lot of these like sore fingers, like not like a sudden finger injury. Like the injury I had in Spain was a sudden like pop when I was crimping, but I've had a lot of just like sore inflamed pulleys from going too hard on the boards.
Well, how often are you trying to work board climbing or hangboarding, basically strength and power, into your overall outdoor route climbing schedule?
I try and have a few sessions a week. So I think the best I've done with my training balance was before I went to Spain. I was hanging Christmas lights, so I was working, 3 or 4 days a week, and that like kind of added like a nice scheduling element to my life, which I previously didn't really have. And it kind of made it so like, okay, 2 days a week I have to go to the gym because I'm just working. And if you get done off of work at 6 p.m., you're just not going to go outside climbing. And that made it so that like, I'm going to get to the gym. I'm going to just TB2, for 2 or 3 hours. And I always warm up with some hangboarding and finish off with some weightlifting. And it's just, if I'm in the gym, I'll do those things and it's all good. But then every excuse I have to not be in the gym, I'm just going to go outside climbing, and then I'm not doing, those things. But basically leading up to that, I was doing like 3 days a week outside and then 2 days a week in the gym. And I would climb basically like 2 days at the Clear Light Cave, a day at the BRG, and 2 days on the TB2. And I think that was like the perfect balance, because the Clear Light is a big cave on mostly manufactured pockets. It's very pumpy, like kind of like this outdoor climbing gym. And there's a bunch of hard routes. And then the BRG is like super technical, crimpy, really hard, bouldery. Some of the routes are like really long. So I just think all of that like complemented each other super well.
You said that this was kind of leading up to your trip to Spain, where you sent La Rambla, right? So 515A or 9A plus. You did Era Vella, 9A or 514D. Did you have other proud ticks out there? Probably a bunch of other routes.
I did La Reina Mora, also on El Pati. That's another 9A route.
Yeah,
that was
sick.
Super classic.
Dude, 2 9As and a 9A plus on the trip. So yeah, pretty productive trip, dude. And we'll unpack that in a little bit here as well. But in terms of preparing for those routes, obviously you had those routes in mind before you went. Was the preparation that you did kind of specific to what you thought you would need energy system wise, or, you know, strength and power wise to do those routes? You know, like how specific were you training for the Spain trip?
I was thinking mostly with respect to La Rambla, because I'd been to Sierra before. That was actually my first trip to Europe. I was in school and I went over like a winter break for 3 weeks and tried La Rambla. And so I kind of just had it in my mind, like what I needed. But in terms of like how specific, it was mostly just like La Rambla is really long. It's around 40 meters. Sorry, I need to let my dog out of my room.
Oh, you're fine. What kind of dog you got?
Mini Aussie.
Cute. My wife just sent me a message because like I sent her a message and I was like, can you keep it quiet up there? I'm in the basement when I'm recording these. And there was all this fucking barking and stomp. I had it on mute, but like crazy scratching on the floor. And she just sent me a message that a chipmunk got in our house. And so the dogs were like,
God,
going nuts, like chasing after the chipmunk. Oh, dude, it's crazy. It's all right. It's Friday. We've almost made it, Tyler. So where did we leave off? Okay, yeah, training for La Rambla. Yeah, so long-ass route.
Yeah, it's super long. So yeah, basically I was just trying to climb as many like 40-meter routes of similar length, and then also just stay like tuned up with the power, doing, like I said, like 2 tension board sessions a week just to feel snappy. Because La Rambla basically breaks down as, you know, maybe a 14B route that's quite long. You're like a lot of rests, a lot of hard sections, to a pretty hard boulder, maybe like a V10 boulder. So it's kind of like connecting this, like basically climbing a 14B, feeling quite fresh, and doing a hard boulder at the top of it. So just like, I don't know, having all those elements together. And then also for me, it's like variety is important. So yeah, like I said, like climbing in the Clear Light, which is super different than Sierra. It's really steep. Sierra's like slightly overhung and crimpy. This is like super steep and pockety, but you know, you're still climbing for a long time, getting really pumped. And then the BRG is more crimpy in your face, like more akin to Sierra. All that variety like kind of added up to like what I needed, even though like none of the routes individually in isolation would have been good. But I think that, you know, the sum of all of it was perfect prep. And I mean, I showed up and basically I spent 3 weeks trying the route my first trip, which was 2 years ago, or maybe even 3 years ago. So I went for a month or 3 weeks and didn't do it. So I was like, okay, I couldn't do it in that, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to go for 2 months and try to do it. And then I actually did it in my first week on my 4th climbing day. I did it and I was like, oh, well, didn't really take that into account. And then I actually hadn't really planned out anything of what I wanted to try after that. So it was kind of nice to just feel like a free man from, you know, when you get a route in your head, you're just like thinking about it for so long. And then, you know, just to have it over with so quickly, you're kind of like, I'm lost. It was almost like too fast. I like don't have direction in my life anymore.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, how interesting to show up as such a better climber than just a couple of years ago. And I guess that makes sense because you're, you know, as a relatively young climber, 2 years is a long time if you're putting in the volume, putting in the work like you were. But man, to show up stronger, fitter, more technically better as a climber, no doubt, and put it down so quickly, it must have felt pretty freaking good.
Yeah, it felt really good. I would say that I basically showed up and felt like I tried the route the day before, because I just thought about it a lot. I knew it was something that, like, as soon as I could go back, I was going to. And yeah, it was just something that I thought about so much and watched so many videos. And, I'd spent a few like weeks on the route. I'd climbed on the route quite a bit. So I came back and like my first go up, it was kind of just like, oh yeah, I remember this. It was like I was on it last week. And then my second go, I fell in the crux, like high point, or matched my high point from, the last trip. And it was like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'd improved a lot, but it was also kind of just like the muscle memory was there and I was just fresh and tuned up for what I needed to be.
Yeah, man. Well, it's really exciting to see your progression, and especially on these really long endurance test pieces, which gets me really excited because that's kind of a chapter that I'm moving into myself at the Red River Gorge. And I want to talk a bit more about endurance training here before we shift to a new chapter. And that's about anything that you might be doing off the rock wall. So anything that you might be doing indoors. I interviewed Bill Ramsey, as I mentioned, not too long ago. And I think he mentioned to me that you would come off of like a long climbing session outside and then like hit the tread wall or hit, be working on some additional training. So tell me about what you're doing in the gym or at the Han Pound there to continue the endurance training, even if you're not on rock.
I don't do a ton, actually. Like me and Bill actually did do some tread walling after some days in the Clear Light Cave. But that wasn't that common. That was like when you're not completely smoked.
Bill's pretty psycho, so like that's a hard.
Is psycho.
Only Bill Ramsey would come off of a day at the Clear Lake Cave and then hop on the treadmill, I feel like. But then it sounds like you hung in.
Yeah, I would. I like if there's any additional volume that you think can be useful, even after a day of climbing. Like I think that's one of the biggest things is you can just use an outdoor session as training, but sometimes it's lacking certain things. I think in some ways it's much better, because you're getting the time under tension. If I go to the Clear Lake Cave and I climb 6 pitches or something of they're 70 feet, they're power endurance, you're getting maybe 5 minutes under tension with and it's super specific. Then it's like, well, what are you missing? Well, maybe I didn't, I spent about 5 minutes on the wall at most. So what I really didn't get was that super base aerobic fitness. So then we go back, tread wall. We're doing, 10 on or 5 on if we want to keep it similar. I mean, it kind of just depends what you think you missed during the session, or if, tried your route a few times, your skin really hurts in that specific position, but maybe you didn't hit that system as hard as you wanted. Then you go back to the treadmill. I honestly have a pretty hard time endurance training in the gym. It's just like not that fun to me. And I just don't think that like the gym climbing is set up similarly to outdoor climbing. Like I would prefer to do laps on some route that I've tried or done many times, maybe back in the new River Gorge where I really started climbing or learned to climb. I would say I would just have a handful of routes that I kind of used as these training routes, and I would go and just see how many times I could do them in a day, or if I could up and down climb them, or if I could do them 10 times in a row or whatever, like with, no rest. Like I like that kind of training more than like the gym. I kind of think of as like boulder training or doing laps on boulders or some like up, down, ups or something like more, power to like power endurance rather than like pure endurance.
Right. Which is kind of, you can get outside. Obviously, for people who are listening that are weekend warriors or go on trips, they have to try to replicate that at the gym. But with you being in Vegas or going on frequent climbing trips, you're always going to have that option. But you mentioned something at the new there that I want to explore before I force myself to move on, because I could probably talk about training for the next 2 hours. And there's other things I want to touch on. But that's kind of like those routes that you would check in on, where maybe you would figure out, oh, let me see if I can run 5 laps or 10 laps without a rest. And I'm curious for you, how you do understand where you're at with your fitness and your strength and your power. And do you run the kind of typical assessments that climbers will do, a max hang test or a critical force test to measure things, year over year or every 6 months? Or are there other ways that you're checking in and aware of kind of where you're at within your physical ability at any given time in the season?
Yeah, I don't really do the testing thing. I'll like hangboard to warm up, and right now I'm doing it to like rehab my finger and stuff, but I don't, I use certain exercises like as like training, like a weighted pull up or something. So I kind of can know those numbers, but usually they're just so specific to the exercise itself. Like even at hangboarding, like if I'm hangboarding a lot, I'm going to be good at hangboarding. but I don't necessarily think it means I'm going to be like climbing my best on even like a tension board or something. So usually like I'll just check in via like a project, like giving Redpoint goes on a project. And some days are better than others, so you just you can't use like a one day as a sample. You just have to like try the route, as many times as you can, and then you're kind of like, oh, right now I'm in good shape. This route felt really good. I mean, you just kind of like when you climb outside a lot, you just know kind of how you want to be feeling on a certain style or on certain moves, and then yeah, I mean, I try not get in my head too much about it because as climbers, we're trying to perform all the time. We're not like going through like off season and on season.
Right.
So I think as long as you're not getting injured and you're being consistent about the things you're doing, like the amount of climbing you're doing, I don't know if it matters that much about like if your numbers are good or not, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just think it's more about like, do you feel good on the wall? Right now, I actually I have a finger injury and I actually have a minor knee injury, like more of an overuse thing. So that's kind of like an obvious sign to me that like, okay, well, I went too hard for too long, basically. And at the end of it, my finger was sore and then it popped. I partially ruptured my pulley. And then the knee thing also came around about the same time. So it's kind of just a sign to me like, okay, I was overdoing it there. And, it's too late now, but I can learn something. And also now is the time when I need to, like, I've dropped the volume in the climbing I'm doing. Like, I'm trying to heal these things up to then kind of get back to like a level where I feel better on the wall.
This episode is supported by our friends over at Arc'teryx, and I am so psyched on this top secret harness that Jonathan Segrist has helped to design over the past couple of years. It's called the Lethos SL, and it was just released. I've been testing one for a little while now, and man, it is nuts. If you are a sport climber and you're looking for a new harness, this one has got to be on your list to check out. It is ridiculously light, okay? It's only got 2 gear loops on there. So if you're going to be out in the alpine, you're doing trad climbing or whatever, this isn't for you. But if you're a sport climber and you only need to carry draws with you, it is bonkers light, and they use this warp strength technology to make it ultra thin. Like, I'm telling you, you don't even feel that the harness is on, which is like a bit of a weird sensation at first. But then you definitely feel it when you take a big whip like I do, and it catches you nice and soft. I've been hanging around on some of my projects recently, not sending, and I'm telling you, usually ultra lightweight harnesses are very uncomfortable. But the way they've built this, the load is distributed evenly around, and so I can hang in this harness and work on a project, and then when I'm sending, again, you just don't even feel it. The other cool thing about this harness is that Arc'teryx has made it incredibly customizable. So you don't just order a size like small, medium, large. You actually order the size of your waist and the size of your leg loops independently. So if you always skip leg day and you've got some little chicken legs there, you can order smaller leg loops. Or if you never skip leg day and you've got some trunks down there powering you up your sport climbs, then you can order some wider leg loops. It cuts down on the weight because they're not adjustable, but also you can fully customize this harness. So if you are in Redpoint mode, pop over to Arc'teryx and check out the Lethos SL. I will put that link right down there in your show notes. Let's talk about nutrition for a few minutes here, Tyler. And you're in your mid-20s. I don't know how much time you spend thinking about nutrition, but is anything a struggle in that department?
I don't think it's a struggle, really. I kind of enjoy, honestly, nutrition and trying to eat well. My struggle, this might sound kind of funny. My struggle really would be like, I really like a beer. Like, I'm a very habitual person and I like beer, like just, like one beer at the end of like a long climbing day is just great. And it's just not that good for your recovery. So I've like recently, basically it was like a guilty pleasure of mine. Like once a week, I'd be like, I'm just going to have my beer and just know that maybe that day is not gonna, like I might recover, a few percent less or whatever. And I'm just like, I just want to optimize. So I'm just like that, like even if it's like 5%, I'm like, oh God, I don't like it. But recently NA beers are really good. Like I've discovered this. I don't know. Some people probably already knew this. I don't know. But in Spain, they just had like an amazing selection of NA beers. And then I was like, this is great. Honestly, I enjoy like trying to eat well and, optimize as well as possible, hit certain, have good macros, hit 140 grams of protein a day and,
Yeah, Yeah, so let's geek out for a second over nutrition. So the NA beers is obviously something that's already working for you. And I've mostly, I mean, for different reasons, because I'm not an elite performing athlete, but now in my mid 40s, like any alcohol makes me feel like absolute garbage the next day. So I've pretty much cut it all out, and I'll have some NA beers or like some kind of functional drinks that aren't alcohol, but have like a bunch of like reishi mushrooms or whatever, like all that kind of stuff. There's a great market for non-alcoholic stuff out there now. And so I just have done that out of necessity than any sort of performance thing. But cool to hear that's been something that you've been able to kind of quote unquote sacrifice without making it feel too much like a sacrifice. What about on like performance nutrition? How are you getting your protein? What does your diet look like? It sounds like you put more thought into it than many of the 20 somethings that I have on this show.
I get a lot of protein from fish. Like I eat a lot of salmon. It's probably like half of my dinners would be like salmon. I do like eggs and avocado and sweet potatoes for breakfast. That was what I had today. Greek yogurt. I just like have identified things that I really enjoy to eat. And they're also like, I just know that they make me feel good, that they're good. And yeah, I just try not to stress about it too much.
How about on a big day at the crag? Like, what do you bring in there? And does caffeine come into play? Does sugar come into play? What are you taking before you need to like go hard on a route?
Just a lot of carbs. I do carbs and make sure there's some fiber and some protein. But I think beyond that, it's just like enough food is like big. I just don't want to be hungry like while I'm climbing, but I also don't want to be full. I'm not like a big like leftovers at the cliff. Like I kind of don't want like a full meal, maybe like PB&J and a couple bananas. I really like these like perfect bars. They're just like peanut butter and honey sticks basically. And I think that those are just like super easy. Yeah, they're just not very like, they don't like sit in your stomach and feel kind of heavy. So just like things like that where they don't like make you feel full, but it's like a lot of calories and a lot of carbs. That's for like a long day out. Like if it's a short day, just like a couple bananas would do, I think. And then I like to do supplement protein too after the fact. So I'm a Physadvantage guy, so I like the chocolate whey. I'll just make protein shakes, after every session basically.
I talked to Peter Croft, and he would say that like he would go out on these really big days and all he would do is have a banana, for like the whole thing. So I guess there's some power in the bananas, dude.
Bananas are good. Monkeys eat them, so they're pretty good climbers.
They are pretty good climbers, dude. Cannot argue with that. All right, let's talk about tactics and technique. And we can look at La Rambla. We could look at Full Metal Brisket. We could look at Death of Villains. Those are the 9A plus routes that I just kind of spouted off there. But there's plenty of other routes that you can look at with tactics and technique as well. And we'll start with struggle. So any areas of struggle for you, or just kind of a learning curve for you as it comes to tactics or technique as a climber?
I would just say that I'm not maybe the quickest learner. Like some people, Jonathan in particular, I climbed with him a decent bit and he just seems to do the moves. And it's like once he's unlocked the moves, he's unlocked the route and he's not really going to mess them up. Whereas, for me, I need to get the muscle memory. I have to repeat them a lot. I need to do all the links like maybe several times.
So how does that work? Because I kind of fall into that camp as well. I climb with some guys who are, I think, you're talking about Jonathan Segrist, I think, right? So,
yes.
We're like, yeah, they'll do it once and like, that's it. They'll just know it and they can just execute it. And I never am able to retain beta that well or just retain it in my body that well. And so what does your process look like when you're trying to work through some hard sections on a project?
It usually just looks like spending as much time up there as possible. And for me, that comes down to like, usually I'll climb on a route more than other people would climb on their projects, like 3 or 4 or 5 tries some days, or just, repeating, like I can do a section, but that doesn't mean that like I've learned all there is to learn. Like I might do a crux section or something and then just unclip and jump off and then do the section again and then, maybe repeat that 3 or 4 times. Or just doing like, certain links like every day as a second warm up or something. Maybe the route has like a Redpoint crux in the end and there's like a good rest, halfway up, and climbing from there to the end is like a good second warm up. I want to say Death of Villains, it like you climb most of Life of Villains and then you break off into the roof for what is might be 14A by itself or something. And you get just like a really bad rest before that. And as like a third warm up before my tries, I would just do this link in the end and it would just be really nice. It's like where I was falling, but then I'm much fresher. So I just like, can kind of recruit this energy system, but I'm not like getting totally blown up for the session or something.
So that's not really like a kind of a low point by definition, but essentially you're climbing the hard exit climbing while you're a little bit fresher so that when you get up there on an attempt, it's just a little bit fresher in your muscle memory.
Yeah, that, and on top of like, it's the like muscle memory and then also just being warmed up to exactly those moves. I find a lot of the times just running through certain moves can be really nice, even if you're not doing the whole route. I think like some people think that if they go up a route as like a second warm up or third warm up, that like that's their project. They need to do like every move. But I just kind of think that it's like, you don't need to do that. You could pull through the first crux and then do the second crux, or just like go halfway up and then lower down. Like there's just many ways to use a route to get what you're trying to get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're on a route as long as you take on. Like, you could basically break them up to be 3 different climbs if it's going to be a 40-meter climb. Do you ever think about, or are you aware of what your energy leaks are, or your potential energy leaks? I recently had a conversation with Eric Hurst about this, and it's just really like made me try to be introspective about where I'm inefficient in my climbing style, whether it's a certain grip type or a rest, or like for me at the Red, I don't use heel hooks nearly enough like I should when I'm climbing here. There's like heels everywhere and I just like don't see them or I don't think about them. So I'm more on my toes and that puts me more on my fingers. And so I don't know, I've been putting some thought into that because as Eric said, like it's easier to plug those leaks than it is to just build that much more endurance, in the forearms. If you can just stop leaking so much energy. Where have those been for you as you look back on the last 5 years of your climbing or anything that you might still be working on?
Yeah, I guess I don't really know if I'm able to most of the time like identify the exact issues, but I would say that I'm usually just experimenting all the time, like, doing the links or just trying the route and like from the ground, just try a different beta. Maybe I'm going to drag all of these holds. Something that I found, I'm trying this route in the Utah hills that Joe just put a bone saw, and this crux move, which you literally like do a complete 360 on this like one hold like this. You like, go feet first and then you grab this hold, and basically I realized like it's really comfortable as a 3-finger drag. And I would think that's like less taxing. But then I realized that every left hand before that is also a 3-finger drag. So when I get there, something about being in a 3-finger drag feels very like tiring. Like I'm just like kind of tired in that position. And I realized that if I put my pinky on, even though like normally I would think it's like a more taxing position, it's like less tired because like I haven't used a pinky hold yet in the route. I didn't even realize that until I'm red pointing from the ground, like because in isolation it's fine with, it doesn't really matter how I grab the hold. So yeah, I just think like keeping it fresh and always experimenting with different things to just, see what works. And I think that a big thing for me is I just try routes maybe more than people would in normally, like I was saying, like, sometimes I'll try a route like 4 times in a day. I mean, one, it's better for training. Like maybe your 4th go, you're probably not going to send. I mean, sometimes you do. Like I did bachelor party 4th try of the day. It's just like,
so good.
I'd fallen at the end 3 times, and then this one go, I just happened to stick the move that I had fallen at, and then it's like you're at the anchor. So you're just like, but a lot of times I think it's just better for training, and it just lets you experiment more and try different things. And if you get 4 tries to someone else's 2 tries, you're spending half of the time, like half of the number of days on the route to get, maybe the same amount of learning done.
I really like that. I mean, it requires incredible capacity, like work capacity and endurance and ability to recover, and these things that you have now developed over many years and a lot of hard work to be a superpower of yours. But it's something I really admire. And especially when I'm out at the Red and I climb with somebody like Eric Hurst or, some of the people in my crew that can do 6 quality goes on like a really hard overhung pumpy thing. And yeah, maybe I'll get 2 or 3 if I'm lucky. Yeah, I'm very aware of that. Like they're getting twice the amount of just practice of being out, and whether you send or not, like you just get to do that many more moves and become that much better of a climber. So I think that's an underrated kind of low key thing that you just said there, which is just getting more time on the project is going to do it. And do you have a sense for, like you were talking about adding the pinky there, like you didn't discover that until you're doing Redpoint goes. How open are you to changing your beta as you get closer and closer or even into Redpoint goes?
I would say I'm pretty open, but also a lot of times like people's beta just, like we're all different. We're all, I think it's important just to try. Like if someone does something and they're just like, oh, this is the way for sure for me. And, why not just try what they did? And then if you're like, oh, that didn't feel very good or it did, I just think it's, just try it and see if it works. But I find that I'm pretty good at finding beta that I like. I just have different strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, I was watching a video of you. This was some time ago, so I don't know if I'm going to get the right route. It might have been like Bone Tomahawk maybe or something like that. But I feel like in the video you were talking about how you did the crux quite a bit different than most other climbers were doing it. I think Joe and maybe Cameron Hurst was out there as well. But essentially, if I'm recalling correctly, it seemed like you kind of like skipped a move or you did some like maybe lower percentage like dead point type throw where others were maybe using some like intermediates that might have been more taxing. Am I recalling that correctly?
Yeah, so basically they were doing this kind of tricky drop knee to get to an undercling that was kind of strange and behind your head, and then it's kind of powerful, like very hard move to hold this undercling. I would use the same holds, but I would just do a big dead point, and then it was kind of powerful, and then drop into that undercling, and it was all kind of nicer and felt less taxing, but maybe you're right, maybe lower percentage. I actually think though that since that people have switched to that beta.
Oh, no kidding.
So I think that route, I mean, Joe does it with some knee bars now, but I think Cam does that same sequence that I did.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, I've been thinking about this recently because I just did like the hardest boulder I've ever done. And there's a lot of beta videos, not a lot, but there's like a handful of beta videos online that I was watching. And I ended up doing like kind of an amalgamation of the different beta videos and then also coming up with like a couple moves myself or that I figured out with some friends. And so it was like kind of a pick and choose, but basically, even though I was like similar dimensions to some of the people that were doing it, we're like different strengths. So like I might watch one and somebody was like way stronger than me and could do something that I definitely couldn't do. And like, it just made me think about like beta videos or just getting beta from friends where sometimes it's super helpful and sometimes it's just way off the mark. And here you've kind of created a new beta for a route that had been climbed multiple times prior to it. And so how much do you take a look at the way other people do it, and where do you put that into kind of the hierarchy of how you feel like you're going to work it out for yourself?
I just think it's like an idea to start with. Like it's just, this is what other people have liked before, so you just start trying that. And I think that's how that route went. Is Joe was there in the cave, I was climbing with him, and he was like, oh, this is how we do the move, and I tried that, and I was like, it felt really hard, and I probably fell on it, and then I was looking at that section, and then he was like, I think it was Ben and Hannah that had tried not even quite the way that I ended up doing it, but something kind of similar, basically going to the same holds. And I kind of looked at that, and I tried the way that Ben had done it, and then I just altered, I think I skipped an intermediate and maybe heel hooked or something, and then it just all worked out. So I kind of started off of his beta and then explored more. I mean, I think you just sit on the rope and try different things. Like I said, experimenting. I'm sure I did the move every way that people had done it. I mean, that's the nice thing about sport climbing is usually, the moves aren't going to be completely limit, right? It's like there's just so many that in isolation you can hopefully do the move several different ways. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just can do it one way and you're just not doing it any other way. And then you find the one way and you're like, finally, I unlocked it.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's like you can do it 3 different ways. It's just which way do you want to do it? And a lot of times it'll be the way that I just like more. Like, what am I more psyched to do in the moment of like, I'm going to be coming from the ground. I'm going to be pumped. I'm going to be, throwing really desperately to this hold. Like, how do I want to do that?
Hell yeah. Another underrated concept for climbing is just like being psyched on a move, whether it makes it easier or harder. But like if it's super freaking rad, then it's just like something you want to get to and be able to try.
I would say if it makes it harder, maybe don't do it. But sometimes it just feels the same. Like, I feel like, we've all had that where you're just doing a move and you can do it 4 ways and it all feels the same. So it's just like, all right, I'm going to pick a way that I like. And then if I fall there, then I'm going to reevaluate. But if I'm not falling there and I like the way I'm doing it, why change it? Why think too much about it? Unless you have another reason, like the 3-finger drag thing,
Right.
Like if you're too fatigued from doing it a certain way and, maybe the next section has a 3-finger drag hold, like maybe then you need to reevaluate. But
can you recall what your single favorite move on any route is?
oh gosh, favorite move. I want to say the starting boulder on Southern Smoke Direct. Partly because I legitimately think it's the hardest boulder I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
But it's also just like, yeah, it's so hard and it's so pure. And also, like, the moves are really cool. The holds are very, like, perfect. Like, they're barely possible. You take, like, a decent flat edge with your left hand and you just do a huge lock off to a side pull that's, 5 feet above your head or 4 feet above your head. And then you have to, like, kind of pull up really hard on that side pull and just drive by to a sloper. And then, most of the difficulty's over. But I probably spent, like, more than 10 sessions trying to do that section of climbing. But it also has like some significance to me as it's in that Red River Gorge, the movie, super iconic, where Adam Mondra flashes it. And I had seen that video when I was like a kid because I climbed at the New and the Red quite a bit when I was, in high school and college. And so he just flashes it this way that's like so pure. And now there's like other betas, but I just saw this one sequence from when I was like, a 512 climber, and I was like, I want to be able to do that. It looks just so nuts, like how strong he is.
Did you do it that way?
Yeah, I did it that way.
Hell yeah. And didn't you, I feel like I might have been out here when you did. I wasn't out at Bob
I think
Marley
so.
when you did it, but I think you and I connected afterwards. And did you do the boulder and then fall on the quote unquote Southern Smoke exit climbing? I'm going to call one of the most iconic and hardest routes at the Red exit climbing, but like, did you do the boulder for the first time, but then not end up going to the chains on that one?
Yeah, actually, I did the boulder 3 times, actually.
Oh,
Yeah, I fell twice after the fact. No, I actually think we climbed together maybe just a few days before I did it. Because I remember I belayed you on Tasset, and it was
You
the
did,
day
that's
that I
right.
was
We were
trying it.
but wait a minute. Were you trying it that day or were you resting that day?
Yeah, I think I had already tried it that day.
Okay.
I think I was like, my session was over. But yeah, I had one day where I made it through for the first time, and then I fell. I actually made it through Southern Smoke into Ultra Perm, and then the Ultra Perm crux is really hard for me. It's like this Spock hold, right? And it's really tight, and I just have fat fingers. And so it always is hard for me. I mean, that's not, I'm just pumped too, like, whatever. But yeah, I just fell in that move because I was pumped, but, I was like, oh, first time making it through the boulder. I mean, it makes sense. And then the next day I made it through the boulder again and fell in that same move, like with this Spock hold. And then actually the same day I made it through the boulder again and did it.
Dude, you got that boulder dialed.
Yeah, after the fact. But it legitimately, I haven't spent that much time bouldering, but I think it's the hardest boulder I've ever done.
Totally forgot that you caught me on Tasset. Still haven't sent Tasset. Just like, I make it over to Bob so infrequently that I just have like lifelong projects there because I get on them once every 3 years or whatever. But
I remember having to talk you into trying it a second time. Like, you were like, oh, I'll just try it again like next year. I was like, no, just try like one more time. Because you like one hung it. And you said you hadn't tried it in a year. And I was like, okay, just one more go and you'll just do it.
Yeah, that was fun. Cool, man. Thank you. Thank you for that trip down your favorite moves there. I like that. I'm going to start asking that of more climbers. There's something about just like recalling favorite moves or sequences that's just so fun. It just like makes somebody light up.
Yeah, it's nice to reminisce. I mean, it's kind of crazy when you think of how much time you spent looking at like a section of rock. And sometimes you're just like, I just hate this section right now. Like, you're just kind of sick of it.
Right.
And then other times you're like, wow, I just really like doing this, like, handful of moves. all these holds are really nice.
And then it's just over. Like one day it's just over and you might not, I'm like, I don't know. Like, will you
never
go back
again try it?
Yeah. Like I guess the next time you're at the Red, you could hop on the boulder problem, but it's not likely. We don't tend to revisit things all that often.
Sometimes it's a bit demoralizing.
Right.
Like, wow, I was really strong when I did that one.
Totally. This episode is supported by PhysiVantage, and I want to tell you about a product of theirs that I've been using every single day as I'm focusing more now on route climbing and building fitness, endurance, power endurance, and all of that. And I'm telling you guys, this thing's just like a straight up performance enhancer. Now, it's NSF certified, which means like it's legal for competitions and Olympics and that kind of thing. But I'm telling you, it is just absolutely a performance enhancer in the best way. And that's because they're using ingredients that include like beetroot extract and citrulline malate, a bunch of other really good stuff to help boost fatigue resistance. What does that mean? Well, it means for me, when I'm doing like really long sessions at the gym or I'm doing long climbing days outside, I get better power endurance. I get longer time to pump, which is critical for me on my routes. If I can put off the pump for like another couple of moves, maybe that allows me to get to a rest. And then also faster recovery between burns. So it used to be where I'd like go to the gym and I'd maybe get like 4 or 5 really good routes in and then I'd be wrecked. But with Syndurex, it gives me better recovery between those burns. So maybe I get 6 or 7 or 8 really good goes in, and that's just more practice. It's more time to be able to work on technique. It's more time to get the physiological adaptations that I need to climb hard routes outside. It's just awesome. I take it before every single training and climbing session. And I can really feel the difference. I recommend you check it out if you're a route climber especially, or if you're a boulderer and you want to boost your power endurance and get better recovery so you can make every session count. Syndurex is the real deal. And you can get 15% off by using code STRUGGLE15 over at PhysiVantage.com. That's STRUGGLE15 to get 15% off Syndurex and everything else over there at PhysiVantage.com. Okay, talking about mental game here, the mindset chapter. I love it. I love it so much. But let's talk about struggle first. Before we talk about your superpowers, let's talk about your struggles on the mindset side, Tyler.
I definitely can get a bit of like performance anxiety when it comes down to, you have your one try. It's probably, first or second try of your first day on, it's probably going to be the best try. Mm-hmm. So I definitely can like put weight on like the outcome there. I think most people probably do, but I think that can negatively affect how I climb. Sometimes you're just a little too reserved, trying to own the moves a little too much. I find this particularly with like long pumpy routes is just a little bit of like over gripping to control the easier intro before the crux can end up being like enough to just get you too pumped. And like when I was trying Era Vella, I was doing that and then I was basically falling at the V4 Redpoint crux because I had just exerted a little too much energy for 40 meters to get up to there.
What are you thinking about then on route? Like on these super long routes, Era Vella is a good example, but many of the others that you've been on as well, which will have some rests, some of them good and some of them marginal. How are you trying to check in with yourself and either calm your thoughts and your body down or get psyched for maybe punching into a crux that's about to come? Like, what are you doing while you're in those rests?
I think it kind of depends on the pacing of the route. It definitely is the hardest when it's kind of that like bad rest to like more chill climbing. But, 13D is like kind of chill with respect to,
It's like a number grade below.
Yeah. So it's just like you can't, you're doing V5 moves. You can't like try that hard. So I find that to be harder than the really cruxy or maybe the harder sections where you kind of got to get a little aggro and go for it versus like, no, I need to keep it mellow, really like just drag all these holds, like hang on my skin. So I think it kind of depends on the pace of the route, but something like Era Vella, I'm at this really bad rest. It's kind of sharp and uncomfortable. And I'm kind of just like, I'm always analyzing, just like having data, like how do I feel? I feel really pumped right now. Like I don't think I can do it. Like I kind of have that internal dialogue and I try not to let it affect like how I'm going to climb, but just having it as like, then when you get through it and then you're like, oh, I feel good. Like that's progress. Even if you don't make it higher, like 'cause something else happens or maybe you get flash pumped or you never know. But it's nice to have that as like a data point. Like, oh, that time I like something I did in the bottom or for whatever reason, I felt really good. And then, yeah, just like slow the heart rate and leave. Like, I don't leave until I feel like, okay, I'm ready to leave. Sometimes you kind of got to force it. You're kind of just like deep breath out and like, get a little angry and be like, it's going to be uncomfortable, but here we go.
Yeah, I noticed something just in watching Jonathan Segrist climb, as well as just having conversations with him. Something that he seems to have mastered is this ability to go like high gear, low gear, high gear, low gear. He can flip those switches really well, it seems like. And is that just something that comes with time, or is that something that you're aware of and that you work on, where it's like, okay, now it's a sprint. Okay, now I'm just going to frickin' chill. I find that very hard when I'm on routes.
No, it's definitely really hard. It's a skill for sure. I don't think there's any way to train it besides from being really intentional when you're out trying the thing. I don't think like there's any prep work you can really do. Just putting yourself in that situation as many times as possible and seeing what works and what doesn't work. Like, there is a point where if you're resting, like you're resting for too long. Like, you can't hang on this, these little finger buckets for 10 minutes and think that's going to help you. So just like finding, right, what works, what doesn't work, kind of, like I said, like experimenting, but just being like, intentional. I think some people are better than others. I don't think I'm like amazing at it by any means, but I think I'm like used to it to some extent. But yeah, I had this really good experience in Spain trying Era Vella, where basically like it was the last 2 weeks of an 8-week trip to Spain that I had I did some other routes that I was very proud of. And that was sort of the route that I wanted to do to end my trip. And I had tried it a little bit before, so I just like kind of knew what to expect and knew that I would probably be in decent shape. And I basically spent, 10 days trying it and getting really close. And then I fell in the last bolt, twice in the same day and was like, oh, I'm about to do it, but we have 2 days left. Like, the conditions were perfect. It was all the perfect situation to like do it right at the wire. And basically my second to last day, I'm climbing on the route, and I kind of had developed a bit of a finger injury on another route, but it was like getting better. And this one day was very dry, and basically like I just lowered off the route and realized that my finger, like I had injured my finger like pretty badly. And it was all just like a bit overwhelming. I was devastated, I don't know, end of your trip, you think you're going to do your project and you just got a finger injury. And then this was the second to last day. So like I wake up on the last day and my finger is swollen. It's like really bad. I think I had a partial pulley rupture basically. And I go to the cliff and I'm just like, a bit lost, a bit depressed, a bit like, this is all just like, like why did I do that to myself?
Yeah.
And so I end up just like taking photos of my friend, doing some 511s, trying to make it fun. And then I had, some quick draws up on this other route, and we drive over to Era Vella. It's like 3 p.m. And I'm just like, well, like, let me see if I can go do the crux, like, without, crimping. And then I could do it, but it was really hard. And then I was like, all right, whatever. Well, let me just like climb on this route just for the sake of climbing on this route. And, I'm obviously not going to do it. I have this finger injury. It's all, I'm just not lined up to succeed. And I try again and fell again in the crux, but it was like more fun. And I was kind of like, oh, this is cool. Like like I'm not making my finger injury worse because I can like grab this hold in a certain way. And then, it's like 7:30. We're about to leave. My flight's at 10 a.m. And I'm climbing and I get to the same move that I've fallen at. And I just like tried with my entire soul to do this move and screamed so loud that, everyone in the valley heard me. And, I get through this crux that like had hurt my finger, and I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm kind of like pretty fresh right now. And you maybe have like a pumpy 13D or so to the top after that. And I'm just climbing and I'm like, I'm less pumped than I've been before. What's going on? Like, what is this? And my belayer is just like screaming at me, and I'm like, oh my God. Then, I get to this last bowl where I've fallen before, and I'm like, I can do this, and, pull over. And it was just like the most surreal feeling to like, you're just like, yeah, this is why we climb. This is so cool.
Hell yeah. Like, what does that tell you when your fingers were healthy pre-injury? You were going out there, you were making great links in progress, nearly sending, but then you get this injury and it's like the end of the day and you put it together.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was more about kind of sticking with it beyond when you think like maybe you should give up. I mean, there was an element there of like, I really don't want to injure myself again. And that was kind of, part of like, whoa, do I try again? I don't know. But then it was like, I just couldn't give up because I'm like a little psycho about these things. And I'm just like, I want to do the route very badly. So I'm like, what can I do? And basically it came down to like, how like, can I take this hold in a way that's not going to injure my finger? It's going to make this move harder, but if I do injure my finger more, I'm definitely not going to be able to try the route. So I just think it's more about like sticking with it beyond what you think maybe you're capable of, which I think I think it's something that I'm pretty decent at, is just like like sticking it out, to the bitter end.
Yes.
A lot of routes that I've climbed, I've done them basically by firmly believing that like it wasn't possible in that moment, for like whatever reason. And I think that just trying like a route a lot of times is like a really good way to put yourself in those situations. And I was just at the New and watched this guy climb Freedom Tree, this like classic 13D. And it was like he had tried twice. He was obviously like projecting this route. He had tried twice and then he was like gonna leave. And, me and my friends were just kind of like, dude, you should just try again. He's like, oh, like, I'm going to rest and try Monday. And he just ends up trying again and just screaming his way to the top. And, like, you can obviously tell that he kind of didn't really think it was going to happen. But it was like, I could see that he went through the same thing that I would go through, where it's like, you don't think it's going to work out, but just put it all out there, like, And those, I think, can, like, kind of foster the moments where you climb really well, because you just don't have any expectation and you can kind of let go a little bit and climb with a little bit more confidence.
Yeah, I think that's so relatable at whatever grade, your first 5'11", your first 5'13", whatever, like that pressure or expectation or just excitement, because like we know when we're getting close on a route. And so then you step up to it and like now there's like a little extra weight to it. But it's hard to manufacture not carrying, at least in my experience. But for you, like injuring your finger for Era Vella, or when I sent the Force, it was the first go of the season that I tried from the ground. It was just like I turned to my friends and I was just like, well, I'm just going to check in on it and see where I fall, just so I know where I'm at. And then like all of a sudden I was like clipping the chains, after like a year and a half of working on it. And so there was no expectation there. But I don't know if that can be practiced in any way. There almost has to be some sort of thing that actually makes us think we can't do it.
Yeah, I find it being like a little bit too tired to what expect that you need to be is like a good place to be. But sometimes I'll find it in other ways too. Like when I did Death of Villains, actually, I get like insomnia sometimes, where I'll just go a week where I really struggle getting any sleep, basically. And during that period, I just hadn't been sleeping very well. And then the night before, I just didn't sleep at all. And then I get to the cliff and I'm just like, yeah, I just can't climb really. Like I didn't sleep. Like I just feel horrible. And then I had just convinced myself that like I would try, but it's going to go so poorly. And that was kind of how I got to that state. And then I ended up climbing amazing and it was awesome. And, you just sometimes it's nice to like be able to like have that excuse almost.
I like that a lot, man. And I actually think you proved me wrong, because I said, oh, it's kind of impossible to manufacture that mindset. But I think you're right. I think maybe the best way to put yourself in it is to do it tired. And this ties back into tactically what you're saying, which is like, oh, if I can get 5 goes on a project when other people can only get 2 or 3, I get more learning. But also as a result of that, you're going to be tired. So I think for the listener, and certainly for me as well, this is a case for just getting that extra going. And sometimes I think a little bit too much about, oh, I want to feel fresh for my workout tomorrow. But, if you're sitting there and somebody's willing to catch you on the project, like you talked me into giving the second go on the route at Bob Marley there, or even Eric did the other day. We were climbing at Torrent Falls and I was like, I think I'm good. He's like, just tie in one more time. And it ended up being my best go. So yeah, that's a good case for just giving it one more go, even if you feel like you're not at your best.
Definitely.
Let's talk about now what's up for you. I feel like you were working on Jumbo Love.
I tried it a little bit last fall. I spent 5 days up there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was my plan for coming back from Spain. I was going to be all fit after doing a bunch of 40-meter routes, and then, yeah, I injured my finger, and I have not been up there once, just because I know that I go all the way out there. I'm not going to be able to hold myself back.
Yeah, that's like a hell of an approach. You want to be able to climb really hard if you're walking all the way out to Jumbo Love. Okay, so
Yeah.
Jumbo Love's tabled for a little bit, but we certainly know that you've got the strength and the fitness for it when you're fully recovered. What's going on in the Fin Cave?
I'm trying this thing Joe just put up called Bone Saw. It's kind of a harder start into Bone Tomahawk. Yeah, it's cool. A little easier on the finger too, because it's like so steep. The holds are like generally a bit better and a lot of open hand stuff. So seems to be okay on the finger.
Dude, Jonathan posted a video the other day of him climbing like 90 feet in a straight roof. Was that the Fin Cave?
Yeah. So he is trying the same route, but he wants to go out the like big exit. So it's kind of like a longer exit.
That's Bone Saw?
It's Bone Saw, but into the extension is what he's trying to do. He's like, I'm not even going to mess with the easier exit.
Forget it. Gonna go straight out the mouth of that thing. That's nuts, dude. That cave, I've never been out there, but that thing looks absolutely sick. I mean, just so foreboding looking. Just like the shape of it and the steepness of it, it just looks gnarly.
Yeah, it's a cool cave. It's pretty unique for the States, too. It's got all these little kind of tufas, and yeah, there's a lot of good routes in there, but it kind of pretty hard cave. It's like 14A to 15A, basically.
What about trips? What's on the horizon for you this year?
Basically, don't have any plans like immediately. Basically, I'm just not sure what the timeline of my finger is going to be. I could see being another 6 weeks or so before I'm really confident. But I'll probably get a rifle this summer. Maybe lander. I was in Wolf Point last summer, and that was great. Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to make it up to Squamish at some point. Hopefully drive and get to climb again with a little bit better weather. We spent like a month there last summer and basically didn't get a day under 80 degrees.
Well, dude, I was out there for the academy, and it was so hot. I mean, it's already like really humbling, hard kind of climbing for me coming from the red. And then it was like 85 degrees or 90 degrees the whole time. It was pretty intense. I'll be out there again in August for the academy. So yeah, I'm sure we'll cross paths there.
Nice. I'll definitely be there. And yeah, I'm hoping to do the same thing. I basically went for the academy was the start of my trip, and then for the next 3 weeks after that, and then the weather was terrible. So I'm hoping that I'll do the same thing, but get really good weather.
So when you're out there, are you sport climbing or bouldering or a little bit of everything?
I just sport climbed when I was there last time. I kind of thought I was going to do more of everything, and then the sport climbing was really good. Like Paradise Valley Wall was like pretty impressive. And then, yeah, I did like one trad route with Ethan Salvo. It was pretty fun. We did an 11A and like had a pretty nice epic experience. It was like a little harder than we expected, and then we got caught in the rain rappelling down. It was like a pretty nice full-on day. It's really
sick, dude. Stuff. I did some bouldering. I did a trad route. I did a 10A with Chris Kalous. That was kind of like on the apron and was really cool, but also similarly was like much harder than I thought it was going to be. And Chris, the hero he is, led every pitch because I was like, dude, I think this is, I'm a little bit gripped by this. It's been a while since I had placed gear. So he was a good rope gun for me on that. And then I did single pitch trad with Amity, but I haven't done any sport climbing out there. So I'm going to make a note to this trip around at least to get on some bolts out there. And Sonny Trotter was out there. I think he was doing something out there at the Paradise Valley Wall at the time, and Hamish was out there. So yeah, I mean, there's just like so much good stuff, but I did duck into the room and I checked out Dreamcatcher and, you know, the boulders, and that is pretty inspiring. Has that been a route that you've ever spent time on or you have on the list?
Yeah, when I was there last summer, actually, I probably had 3 or 4 sessions, but it was the kind of thing, the room didn't seem to get very much wind, and yeah, it was like 80 degrees and 80% humidity and no wind, and it was kind of just impossible for me to think about red pointing the route. Like, I could do links and have fun, but yeah.
Yeah, the conditions were not the conditions. I mean, just the slab start to Dreamcatcher looks so like just improbable.
It's so hard. It was actually like pretty humbling to realize how hard it was.
Well, hopefully some cooler temperatures for you and a speedy recovery. How's the rehab going, do you think?
I think pretty well. I mean, I have a hard time because I didn't take time off of it, and I kind of knew it was a partial rupture. So it's kind of like I'm probably prolonging the recovery time, a bit, which I just need to take into account. But like, I'd rather do that than just, take time off climbing, like for my mental health, basically. I mean, I just want to go climbing. And,
Yeah.
but so it's like a hard balance to like, climb and not go too hard. And then, yeah, but it's good. Yeah, I'm working with PT, working with my coach, and I think it's definitely on the mend. A lot slower than I want, but gotta make do.
Well, dude, good luck with that. And this has just been an awesome conversation. Congratulations on the climbing and just where you're at. It sounds like you're living it up. You're having fun. You're getting to do what you love doing. And you're also just like charging through some of the most classic climbs on ropes. So congratulations, dude. I'm excited to catch up again soon.
Thanks. I really appreciate it.
All right, that wraps things up here with Tyler Thompson, unless you are a Patreon member or Apple subscriber, in which case you get a 30-minute bonus episode with Tyler that I will tell you about in a second. But Tyler, let me just thank you real quick for joining me here at The Struggle. Appreciate you giving up your day, and I will see you in Squamish for the Arc'teryx Academy. By the way, for those who are listening, if you've never attended an Arc'teryx Academy up in Squamish, I could not recommend it more. They put on an incredible event. I mean, Squamish is nuts. The climbing there, the bouldering, single pitch climbing, trad climbing, multi-pitch trad climbing, it's all there. It's like right outside of town. I mean, it's in town. You just see the chief from the donut shop. And by the way, the donut shop slaps. And Arc'teryx is going to be giving away donuts this year. They just told me on a phone call the other day. So look, come for the climbing, stay for the donuts. There's also amazing clinics. Tyler will be there, Jonathan Segrist, Hamish MacArthur, Amity Warm, Jordan Cannon, just the list goes on and on. It is such a cool event. So I'll be there the whole time. If you want to come to Squamish, let's hang out. And what else was I going to say? Oh, this bonus episode with Tyler. So we got another 30 minutes with him where he dives into his takeaways from training and climbing with some of the best in the game, talking about Jonathan Segrist and Alex Honnold and others. What motivates him in climbing? So like, is it climbing classics? Is it pushing the next grade? Is it friendly competition with friends? It's always good to kind of think about what our motivations are. I thought that was a really interesting topic. Sacrificing quote unquote optimization for just being psyched on something. So whether that's a move on a route or a training modality, I thought that was really interesting, especially when it comes to trying like really hard things. Like what's going to keep us going in those moments? Some practical tips about how to train mobility, especially training mobility on the wall. And then we wrap things up with a good old grade debate. Grade debates around the ethics on knee pads and knee bars and using knee pads on classic routes versus maybe not classic routes. He's got some experience in that with routes, a route that Alex Honnold did out in the Clearlight Cave, but also just recently on La Rambla. So, really fascinating conversation with young Tyler Thompson. You can access that instantly and for free with a trial over on Patreon. So patreon.com/The Struggle Climbing Show. Or if you are listening right now on your iPhone, you can just double click right there to subscribe. It helps me to keep the lights on over here in the podcast/utility closet. So if you got it in you to join the crew, I would love for you to do it. And that will give you instant access to over 150 hours of other bonus content that I guarantee you will make you a better climber. If it doesn't, you can quit and just get your money back or shoot me a message and be like, hey, Ryan, none of this helped me. But I just can't imagine that could ever be the case. If nothing else, it's going to be entertaining, but there's just some really good stuff in those pro clinics, whether you want to improve as a boulderer or a big wall climber, route climber, indoors, out, get stronger fingers. We've got topics for pretty much everything under the sun now in that pro clinic library. And it's all over there on Patreon or Apple subscriptions. So thanks for your support if you can. Oh, and I did tell you that I would share a little bit about what I'm doing right now with my training, because as I noted at the top of this episode, my forearms are bricked. And that is because I have just dove right into my endurance training. It's into the summer season here, just kind of late spring into summer. I'm still getting out to the red when I can, but I'm very much prioritizing now my training goals. And so I'm doing 2 endurance climbing sessions a week. And that's either on the tread wall or just doing routes at Rock Sport, my local gym here. So yesterday I did route doubles, as Eric Hurst talked to me about in the recent endurance episode with him. I just did, I'll do like 2 submaximal routes. So I was doing like 2 5.9s or 2 5.10s, just whatever was open on the auto belay. And then I would take a break. And I was at the gym with my daughter yesterday, so I'd take a break and belay her on a couple routes. And then when she was done, I would go do more. So I did 5 sets of route doubles and really tried not to get too pumped. I mean, that's the name of the game for the endurance training. So I was just trying to keep it at a pump level of like around 7 out of 10. And I thought that was a great session. It was fun. I got to work on my movement like Tyler was talking about. Oh, he wasn't talking about it in this episode. He talks about it in the bonus episode. He talks about how to work on mobility while on the wall or work on a new skill while doing warm-ups or easier climbs. So I was really internalizing that. And I was working on some drop knees and some heel hooks, both things that I need to work on to get better at Red River Gorge climbing. So that's that day. And then another day is another endurance climbing day or endurance repeaters. So I did endurance repeaters using my force board this week because I was just super busy, and that only takes like 15 or 20 minutes. So I did an endurance repeater force board day, and then one day on the kilter board to work on and just keep leveled up my strength and power, my hard-won strength and power from my bouldering phase. I don't want to lose that, so I did one of those days. And also, it's just really fun. I love climbing on my kilter board. And then, guys, struggle bus time. I've set a goal to do 1 generalized cardio session a week. Talk more about this in the plog at the end of the month, but I've started running and rowing, and it's a struggle fest over here. I mean, I kind of enjoy it. It's like type 2 fun. I kind of enjoy it a little bit, just kind of the pain and suffering of it, and I'm just really happy when it's over. But my calves are screaming at me right now because I haven't ran in over a year. And I'm wearing my nice, comfy Scarpa Golden Gates, but man, it is just like, I'm not running much. I mean, I'm talking like a mile at like a 12-minute pace. I get out of bed the next morning, I'm like, oh no, hobbling to the bathroom. But I think that soreness will wear off if I just keep up with it. I've also got like a little water rower that I found on Marketplace, and so that's good too. But it also taxes the arms and the back, and so if I'm already bricked from my endurance climbing session, I don't want to be on the rower. Anyway, I'm trying to figure that out. One of you guys wrote in and said, hey, why not kettlebells? By the way, thank you for writing in. I don't think I got back to you on that. I think kettlebells could be interesting. I think I will do an episode around kettlebell training one of these days. I think that was a great suggestion. So whoever wrote in and suggested that, thank you. Sorry, I've been a little bit behind on my emails and messages, DMs, and all that stuff because of launching this new app that I've got going and doing some new videos. I got some new YouTube videos coming out, and then just keeping up with the training and the podcast. It's all a lot. I tend to bite off more than I can chew, and so here we are, comfortable waters for me. I hope you haven't bit off more than you can chew, but if you have, just know that that's life. That's where we're at right now. I think we're all just kind of at this phase, or many of us at least, are in this phase where we just say to ourselves every once in a while, oh, when I have more time, or, oh, when things calm down, I'll do X, Y, Z. Newsflash, Ryan, things will never calm down. So yeah, try to take it in stride. Do what we can to keep up with everything. I hope your training and your climbing are going great, and I do love to hear from you. So even if I don't get right back to you, I just love getting messages from you, letting me know what you're working on. So keep in touch. Have an awesome day and an awesome week. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one.